Okay, you can start.
Hi, pleasant good morning to everyone. My name is Ashley, and together with Shania, we will be presenting while teaching you all about courage and moral leadership. Firstly, I'd like to define what is moral leadership. It is simply learning who you are and what you stand for, and then having the courage to act. Moral leaders demonstrate confidence and commitment in what they believe and what they do. A deep devotion to a cause or a purpose larger than oneself sparks the courage to act. A perfect example of a moral leader is the man on the next slide by the name of General Eric Shinseki, who served in the US military for 38 years. In the year 2003, he demonstrated moral leadership by having the courage to say what he believed, even if it meant disagreeing with his superiors because it felt morally right to him. Even though it caused personal suffering to his career. Moral leaders today, however, can be viewed quite different. Persons in charge are surrounded in scandals more than ever. Leaders nowadays tend to display certain unethical characteristics like dishonesty, arrogance, autocratic ways, and even discriminating ways. These characteristics can most times result in something called an ethical lapse. This is when an error in judgment is made that produces harmful outcomes like financial loss and public humiliation. These leaders carry the responsibility of setting the ethical climate for businesses and can act as role models. But these are the same leaders that, when the pressure to do the right things and make the right decision arises, they tend to migrate to their personal weaknesses and self interest. Most times, money and power greed, making decisions to benefit themselves rather than others. But making the attempt to make the business or whatever corporation they are leading look good in the public's eye. However, in the instance where the right selfish decision is made, the leaders of today tend to take all the credit of the success, but blames others when things go wrong. What leaders do to make things go wrong? Leaders tend to not speak up, especially when they are a part of an unjust act like sexual harassment, corruption, and even theft. When those who are the leaders partake in such acts and don't speak out to correct the wrongs, it creates a culture and a pattern that supports this behavior and normalizes it in the eyes of other up and coming or potential leaders. A good man once said, "You must be the change you want to see in the world." So, I have a little class activity for you all. I will be displaying a few public figures on the screen, and if anyone could name these people and tell me what they all have in common or what they were famous for. Anyone? You can name one, you can name all.
I know.
Nelson Mandela on the bottom left.
Uh-huh.
Martin
Mahatma Gandhi on the bottom right.
Uh-huh.
Abraham Lincoln.
Martin Luther King on the top right.
Uh-huh.
It's Malana, I think her
Could
name.
you repeat?
Martin
Yeah,
Luther
that's her
King
name.
on the top
Yeah,
right.
that's her name. Mm-hmm. Okay, so I think that was everybody. Miss Eleanor Roosevelt on the top left. Next to her is the late great Martin Luther King Jr. Underneath Mrs. Roosevelt is the late Nelson Mandela. To the right of him is Abraham Lincoln. Next to him is Malala Yousafzai, and right to the right of her is the late Mahatma Gandhi. What they all have in common is that they stood for what they believed in because it was morally right to them. Each one of them were activists for some sort of different cause that stood up for the right of others, which made them go down in history as moral leaders. Okay, so thank you for the participation. Acting like a moral leader. Many leaders forget that businesses are about values, not just economic performance. Now, this doesn't mean that you ignore the period and production costs within the business, neither profit or loss, but it requires recognizing the importance of moral values, human meaning, quality, and higher purpose. But despite acting with greed, they are actually leaders who are capable of acting from moral values. They encourage others to do the same and create an ethical business climate. An example of a leader like that is the man on the next slide. The CEO of Stimulated Environment Incorporated, an investment company by Mr. Alfred P. West, who happens to be the perfect example of what a moral leader looks like. He believes that if you separate yourself from your employees with the corporate jets, the enormous stock options, and other special benefits, it sends the wrong message, which is why he treats himself as everyone else. Leaders like him create systems and policies to make employees feel comfortable and show zero tolerance to violence. Not to forget that what these leaders do in their private lives can affect their personal life, professional lives. So they would have to conduct themselves in ethical manners at all times. A leader's capacity to make moral choices is related to the individual's level of moral development, which is the diagram you're going to see in the next slide. It shows 3 levels of moral development. Right, level 1, the pre-conventional level, where one who follows rules to avoid punishment, acts in own interest, and is very obedient. Level 2, the conventional level, which is the most common level, one who lives up to others' expectations, fulfills duties and obligations of social systems, and upholds laws. And level 3, the post-conventional level, one who follows principles of justice and rights, and has great life balance and acts in an independent and ethical manner, regardless of others' expectation. However, these moral choices that are linked to these moral development is due to moral courage. What is moral courage? It is taking action when your values are put to the test, and moral courage exists in 3 areas: principle, danger, and endurance. Principle is being able to act with principle, fairness, and honesty. Danger is assessing the risks in every decision made to prevent negative consequences. And endurance is leaders can possess moral principles yet lack the confidence until put into practical situations. Leaders can use an understanding of these stages to enhance their own and followers' moral development, and to initiate ethics training programs to move people to higher levels of moral reasoning. When leaders operate at all 3 levels, with all 3 areas of moral courage, they focus on higher principles and encourage others to think for themselves and expand their understanding of moral issues. Much of the thinking about leadership today implies that moral leaders encourage change towards turning followers into leaders, thereby developing their potential rather than using a leadership position to control them. This approach is called servant leadership. Servant leadership is the position where leaders give up control and serve employees. Servant leadership is the fourth stage in the change in leaders from focus from self to others, as you can see in the diagram on the next slide. There are four stages. Stage one is the control stage, where the autocratic leaders lie, who direct, control, and make decisions, and their subordinates obey. Stage two is the participation stage, where leaders are responsible for outcomes and they may act as mentors and coaches. They give up some of their control, but they are still responsible for certain moral factors, which can lead to treating followers as they can't think for themselves. Stage three is the empowerment level. This stage is also called stewardship. It's where followers are empowered to make decisions and they have control over how they do their own jobs. Stewardship supports the role of a leader without trying to control the moral and values of others. There are four principles of stewardship, as you will see on the screen. Next slide, please. Okay. Four principles of stewardship is one, to reorient towards a partnership assumption. Two, to localize decisions and power to those closest to the work and the customers. Three, recognize and reward the values of labor. And four, expect core work teams to build the organization. And to reiterate my point on servant leadership, an example of a servant leader is who you will see on the next slide. Mr. Robert Wood Johnson, who is the founder of Johnson & Johnson. He stated, and I quote, "It is the duty of the leaders to be a servant to those responsible to him," meaning that the needs of others outweigh self-interest in order to grow and develop and provide opportunity for others to gain materially and emotionally. So I have one more class activity for you all. I would be giving you three situations and you'll answer what is the most moral or ethical way to handle these situations. Anyone could answer, there's no wrong answers, hopefully. Scenario one. Your manager congratulates you for a brilliant suggestion and hints at a promotion. Your employee gave you the idea. Do you mention this to your manager? Anyone could answer.
Yeah. Yes,
Okay,
you mentioned.
yeah. Well, that is correct. Like I said, no wrong answers. You'd also want to mention it to your manager. You don't want to be known as the thief of people ideas and taking credit for what was not your idea. Scenario two, please. Okay. A colleague is out of her office. You notice a paycheck is on her desk valued at $100,000. What do you do?
Take it and run. Fast.
Well, actually, no, because you could get in trouble, your colleague could get in trouble, you all will be known as thieves, you all could get fired. There can be so much negative consequences in that situation. So you'd want to play blind, and leave the office immediately. Or if you could resist temptation, just don't take the money. Simple. Scenario three. You have a struggling young company. You have to choose between two equal candidates for a job, a man and a woman. The woman will work for $2,000 per year less than the man. Do you hire her for that reason?
Of course not.
Right, because you'd want to treat the two of them equally, not because she's willing to work for less. You would hire her for that reason alone. She deserves the work for as much as the man is willing to work for.
But does it mean that we don't pay her what she wants?
Um, well, in this instance,
Uh-huh.
she willing to work $2,000 less than the man. We don't
So
know if she knows that she's working for less than the man, but I don't think we should hire her for that reason.
you don't
If
think
the two
so?
of them is equally, no.
Uh-huh. From a business perspective, what would make sense there? Put aside the ethical and moralistic judgment, from a dollars and cents point of view, if you have two assets that would yield for you
Uh,
the same level of output, but one is costing less than the other, what is the logical choice?
Run to the one costing less.
Correct. So you understand where making decisions based upon just dollars and cents can conflict
Mm-hmm,
with making decisions
mm-hmm.
from a moral and ethical standpoint. So that's a dilemma because there's nothing wrong with hiring her and paying her less because that is what she expects. Mm.
Oh yeah.
Food for thought, I would say.
Yes. Well, that is it. Thank you for the class participation. It is the fun isn't over just yet. We have another part. Shana, you could take over now.
Okay, thank you so much, Ashley, for sharing your lesson with us on moral leadership. Now we will be going on to leadership courage. So, firstly, we want to define what is courage. One dictionary defines courage as the quality of mind or spirit that enables a person to face difficulty, danger, pain, etc. without fear. Some may define the word as being brave in spite of fear of danger, while others define courage as bold and brave, unafraid to face tough challenges. Just a note, whether you're afraid or not, courage comes down to what you choose to do. We can also say, if there were no fears, courage will not be needed. People experience all types of fears, including the fear of death, mistakes, failure, embarrassment, hinting that's me, change, loss of control, loneliness, pain, uncertainty, abuse, rejection, and success. The list can go on and on and on. But what separates a true leader from the rest is the ability to step through those learned fears, to accept responsibility, and take risks, make changes, speak their mind, and fight for what they believe in. So, one example of a courageous leader, I would say, is Frederick Douglass. He was a abolitionist. Sorry, he escaped slavery in 1838. And after escaping slavery, he used his experience from that situation and became a leader in an anti-slavery movement and a champion of Black freedom. So, courage means pushing beyond your comfort zone. So I'm sure somebody was put in a position where they had to push beyond the person they're accustomed being. So maybe you're normally a quiet person, but this situation made you want to be, or requires you to be someone you're not, maybe a more vocal person, a more outright person. So has anybody been in this type of situation or been in a situation where they had to come out their comfort zone?
Many, many times.
Would you all like to give an example as well? Could be anything.
Presented in class.
That's definitely a good one. That's definitely a good one. So doing presentation might not be your thing per se, but it has to be done. So you have to build this courage to say, okay, this is not who I am, but I have to do this because we have to get marks for it. We have to do it well, and this determines our future. So thank you for sharing your example. Acting like a moral leader requires personal courage. So we know that being a moral leader requires you to know yourself, your strengths and your weaknesses, knowing what you stand for and being nonconformist. To note, in addition to this, a moral leader also entails building relationships, which means being open about yourself, being vulnerable, and listening and sharing experiences with others. So while reading the book that was given to us by Sue, I came across this example with William Peace. He was one of the managers in a company, and the company wasn't doing so well at this point in time financially. So they had no choice but to lay off majority of their workers. So William Peace took the initiatives to do that. And as he broke the news to his employees, they basically went off. They were frantic, they were arguing, they were shouting, they were angry. And William Peace did nothing. He stood there and he basically took in what they had to say. So I really asked myself, okay, why did he call security if they're acting so angry and shouting and all these kinds of things? Why didn't he call security? Why didn't they get them out immediately? Well, William Peace understood that breaking this news to them would put them in this state. They would be immediately worrying about how they're going to support themselves, maybe their family, pay bills, and all these things these people would be thinking about in that moment. So he understood by breaking this news, they would be angry, they would be disappointed, and they would be sad. So he allowed them to voice their concerns. So opposing unethical conduct requires courage. Whistleblowing. So what is whistleblowing? Whistleblowing means someone who exposes dangerous or illegal activity in a public or private organization, or probably in Trini terms, a sellout. This act can be extremely risky for employees that may lose their job, be ostracized by workers, or transferred to an undesirable position. An example of this is David Windhauser, who worked in a heating and cooling company. He was fired after reporting that managers were fraudulently reporting expenses on financial statements. So, because he made this report, the managers obviously knew what was going on. So, by doing this, they fired David Windhauser. In 2002, the Sarbanes-Oxley Act was released. This act helped protect investors from fraudulent financial reporting. So basically, persons like David Windhauser would be protected by this act. They can voice their concerns if there's any fraudulent financial reporting going on in the business. They can probably take the company to court and possibly get their job back if they were fired wrongfully. As of now, whistleblowing is anonymous, where employees are allowed to voice their concerns on a whistleblowing site. So you go on the site and you may have proof of what you saw or what you detected, and you can voice that concern without anyone knowing who you are. So how do you unlock courage within yourself? Number one, believing in a higher purpose. Leaders who have a strong emotional commitment to a higher vision, or purpose, find the courage to step through fear. Courage comes easily when we fight for something we really believe in. So I'm sure that most of you have that something that you're working towards, and it's the reason why you fight right now in whatever you're doing. Does anyone have that higher purpose, that reason?
Yes, definitely.
No one. Oh,
Yes.
okay, that's great. That's great. So I'm sure every time you're probably in a difficult position, you would remember this one thing and say, okay, I am going to fight for this. Whatever it takes, I am going to do this because of this one purpose. Number two, draw strength from others. Having that love and support from others in this tipsy-turvy world is very important. So think about a mother that will risk her life to protect her child. When you genuinely care about someone, you work hard towards helping them grow and succeed. So most of you, if all of you, must have at least one person that you know would be there for you, and you would be there for this person. And you know this person is your motivator, and likewise you are their motivator. So really it's basically a push and pull of each other's energy, and you would go to this person for anything, and you would help this person throughout anything. Anyone has that person, people in their life?
Yeah, I think so.
Yes, we
Yeah.
do.
Oh, you think? Okay, that's good. That's good. And number three is to welcome failure. So we all know Walt Disney, who had a business venture go bankrupt before he went to achieve his major success. Many people want to Many people want success without difficulties, but accepting or welcoming failure can help a person or organization learn valuable lessons from things that go wrong. So this is probably one of the things that I have to work on personally because I don't like failures. I would probably throw a little temper tantrum if I fail something, but that's before. But now I learned from that, and after coming out of certain failures or certain disappointments, I realized that okay, I learned something from this. This made me better. I know what to do now in this situation. I know how to move. I know where to direct myself. So right now I'm like, come on, bring it on. I'm ready. I can handle this. I am welcoming failure in anything I do, anything I want to do. So precepts, believe in a higher purpose, draw strength from others, and welcome failure. And lastly, I just have a little video, less than 2 minute video, um, with a situation that happened. And I would like at least one person to explain how courage was displayed in this video. So I'm going to play it now. We're loading. So we have to 5 seconds. Great. So after watching this video, can someone explain to me how courage was displayed? Anyone?
Well,
David stood up to Goliath.
Sorry, you can say that over.
Uh, David stood up to Goliath, basically. Being small doesn't necessarily mean that you're fragile.
That's true. That's true. And I love that example because of the size difference. It's actually very hilarious. So, yeah, so in the video, there were grasshoppers and there were ants. So I'm sure everyone seen this movie where the grasshoppers were forcing the ants to basically pick food for them for winter, for when winter was coming. And the ants were fed up of being bossed around and forced to do this. And in this situation, this one ant realized that the ants don't need them. They need the ants. And by standing up to the grasshopper, he also empowered the rest of his say family, friends to stand up and do the same. So he displayed that courage to so that the ants will not have to pick food for the grasshoppers anymore. So thank you for answering that. And these are our references. All right, thank you so much, everyone who listened, who participated in all our questions, and who took the time to explain. Thank you so much. And this is the end of our presentation. Are there any questions? Okay, thank you so much.
All right, if there are no questions, I'm going to pause the recording now.